everyone. Welcome to Work Love Wednesday. Sam Smeltzer here for Work Love Wednesday. It is time for Work Love Wednesday. Hi Facebook. It is Wednesday and it is 7:44, which means it is almost time for Work Love Wednesday, and it just feels good to be back. Last week I was not feeling so well, and I am extremely paranoid about my voice and losing my voice whenever I get sick, because I think that there's just this weird karmic energy that whenever you are a speaker for a living, anytime you get any sort of virus or illness, it goes straight for the voice. It's like it knows that you need that tool in your body, which from things that I've read, I would not put this past it, that the body actually would shut down the organ that you're going to utilize the most to make sure that you rest. So that's what was happening for me last week. I was kind of practicing the art of silence in order to save my voice for Saturday, because I had a speaking engagement. And I've been kind of traveling around, and some of you have seen the post. I do volunteer work for PA SHRM, which is a Society for Human Resource Management, and there's a state council level. And I serve as the liaison for the local regional chapters. And so I've been going around and making announcements. So once again, need my voice too, because a lot of them, there's not microphones because the rooms are not that big, but they're still a lot of people, so you have to project. So I need my voice. And last week, I just did not feel very good about it, especially Wednesday morning. So spent the time kind of healing and giving myself grace and pushed myself to write a really awesome blog post. And I think that, the one thing that I really enjoy about writing is that it allows me to get those messages just right. My latest book that came out, Unstuck You, that was released in November, I really developed a full appreciation for writing as being a creative. What is my hair doing? I don't know what's happening because everything's in reverse in the camera. But I really developed a appreciation for the art of being able to fine-tune the message to maximize the impact. And being a trainer and developing programs, you kind of, everything happens for a reason with whoever shows up in that space. But at the same time, as a trainer, you leave and you start to think about, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? And then trying to create this ultimate kind of environment when you do it again. In book format, you have the ability to go through multiple edits and revisions and really perfect the messaging that is in that book for individuals as they pick it up. And so it's a really kind of cool art form, which I'm not going to lie, I'm very fascinated with. And after I turned Unstuck You, which was the Work Love program originally, into a book, I kind of wanted to turn everything into a book. So who knows? We'll see what the future holds. Anyways, so very applicable, because today I want to talk about a book. I've been actually in the zone and kind of plowing through my reading list yesterday, not last night. Yesterday, I just finished the book Rising Strong by Brene Brown, which has been kind of a read a little bit, it sits a little bit, read a little bit, it sits a little bit. And in fact, the blog post that I did in lieu of Work Love last week talked about how that book has been triggering a lot of reflections for me. And it's, that's one of the things I love about reading. It's always a constant source of inspiration for me. And so it doesn't surprise me that the blog post would be sparked by that. In fact, I'm working on another blog post that is sharing some insights from the book Leadership is an Art by Max Dupree. If you haven't read this is a great book. It reminded me of, I think it's called Divine Compensation by Marianne Williamson. There's some books that are just filled with so much knowledge. Instagram's tripod is sliding. But there's some books that are filled with so much knowledge that you just have to like take them in over and over and over again. And that is one of those. That is one of those books. The Leadership is an Art. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure Instagram does not fall down. I'm really like struggling with this iPad. There we go. Okay. So this was one of those books too. So if you love leadership on any kind of concept, it's written by Max Dupree is a CEO. So hearing his take on his view of leadership and the lessons that he's had throughout his experience, awesome. And I'm so glad that I took my time to read through it so I could really absorb it. And that's the same thing with that book by Marianne Williamson. So highly, highly recommended. But anyways, he has a concept in there about, as leaders, what should we be weeping? The book was written in 1989, so some of the language is a little old school, but still so beautiful and valuable. So anyway, so that's a blog post that's coming that I'm actually planning on working on after I'm done with Work Love today. I'm going to get my right on. But the book that I want to talk about is called The War of Art, Break Through the Blocks and Win Your Creative Battles by Steven Pressfield. And we'll shift it over here for Instagram so you can see that. This book was recommended by Marie Forleo, which if you don't follow her on YouTube or go to her website, marieforleo.com, Marie Forleo.com. She is an amazing inspiration. She cracks me up. She delivers a dose of inspiration every week on her YouTube show called Marie TV. It's just awesome. It's learning without feeling like you're learning, and it always is very inspirational and applies in some contexts. But this is one of her favorite books, and so I started reading it for that simple reason, because when great people recommend books, you assume that they're great as well. And there's been some really great nuggets. This book is laid out in short, very short little bursts, like almost kind of like daily little foods for thought, daily food for thoughts, or daily little notes. And so it's like a really, really easy read. So there was something interesting that popped up in here. So as he kind of goes through these concepts, right now he's talking about one of the main blocks, which is resistance to the creative process, which really resonates with me because I am a writer, and my ability to prioritize writing over other things. And I think anytime we have a creative art form of any kind of nature, even in the training world for development, it just, because it's not as tangible or something that produces something immediately, we almost put it on the back burner to some of the tasks that are more traditionally kind of accepted as, I guess, necessarily busy work. But when we do that, we drastically kind of limit ourselves. For me, I have known this, but I guess being able to articulate it, that writing and my creative process is really a form of balance for me. And in fact, I think my stress levels and everything get really out of whack because I'm not writing and I'm not embracing that artistic side of things. And so I say that because in this book, he's talking about the many forms that resistance manifests, and there's one section in here which, for whatever reason, I've been reading a couple books, and the topic of sex has come up in them in a very different context, as far as the role of sex or strong level of desire, and how that plays into personal and professional development as a distraction. So it just so happens I was reading another book called The Ultra Boy Goes East, that is centered around Qigong and someone's story about how they found Eastern medicine. But then this book here has it as well. So it's just kind of interesting when you see the parallels. And if you've read my first book, From Heart to Heart, and the Rule of Threes, I pay very close attention when concepts are repeating themselves. Not saying that I'm going to be doing any kind of lessons on sex, but it kind of resonated for me in this concept. So I want to read this little blurb, and it kind of gives you a sense of what's in this book as well. and how it's formatted. But it says resistance and sex. So sometimes resistance takes the form of sex or an obsessive preoccupation with sex. Why sex? Because sex provides immediate and powerful gratification. When someone sleeps with us, we feel validated and approved of, even loved. Resistance gets a big kick out of that. It knows it has distracted us with a cheap, easy fix and kept us from doing our work. Of course, not all sex is a manifestation of resistance. In my experience, you can tell by the measure of hollowness you feel afterward. The more empty you feel, the more certain you can be that your true motivation was not love or even lust, but resistance. It goes without saying that this principle applies to drugs, shopping, masturbation, TV, gossip, alcohol, and the consumption of products containing fat, sugar, salt, or chocolate. So it really got me about this piece. And I think that sex is the topic that people are talking about because it has a tendency that it can go down to this very dark place and it can become an obsession. And we know that it has that dark side. But when they talks about that, what makes the manifestation of it show a sign that it's resistance that's basically manifesting is that you can tell by the measure of hollowness you feel afterwards. The more empty you feel, the more certain you can be your true motivation was not love, but basically a lust to resist whatever you're meant to be doing. And so the way this really manifested for me, and I think it's been almost 2 years that I did these podcast episodes talking about my addiction or a default mechanism to go to shopping for basically to just numb myself when I felt incomplete, or I felt not worthy, or I felt like I just wasn't happy. And I would end up buying a bunch of junk that I did not need. And in fact, over the last year or two, kind of been going through this whole idea of really pushing myself to get rid of things that I don't absolutely love and bring me joy. And then really challenging myself that what I bring into the space, even clothes, that it's stuff that I really love and feeds to empowering me to feel worthy, loved, and joy. But when I was sitting there thinking and reading about this, because I'm always saying I don't have time to write, yet I still have that nagging, pulling feeling sometimes that's like yesterday, you're going to go have lunch in Lancaster, you're going to be near the new Nordstrom rack, you should go there. Instead of going to a coffee shop and bringing your iPad or your laptop and then taking the time to write. Because I know even in short bursts, 10 to 15 minutes, I can plow through a lot of words. So that time is valuable. It's not like I'm going to sit there and stare at a blank screen, which happens sometimes too. So it's not always super productive. But the whole idea of this shopping and using that to numb, it really started to make me question, like, why would I be drawn there? I mean, it's a very shiny kind of distraction. I'm going to go in there and maybe find nothing. And how am I going to feel afterwards? Am I going to feel empty? Or is there a chance I'm going to find something that brings me real awesome joy because it's a really great find that I'm going to take with me, which is very rare nowadays that I find something that makes me that excited. But with writing, like, I feel a sense of satisfaction almost immediately. Taking the time to sit there and write, even for 10 to 15 minutes, it shifts my entire day. It actually makes me more centered because for me, my brain is always going a gazillion miles a minute. So getting those ideas out on paper, because I always feel like I have to rotate them around and like I'm scared my brain's going to like lose some of them. But being able to just write them down allows me to just find a balance in a life of rather than carrying all of this kind of upstairs, whether it's like random thoughts on things. I mean, Work Love Wednesday is kind of a perfect example of that. This is an expression of what I'm feeling, thinking, or wanting or needing on a weekly basis. It's a video journal that I share with you every single week in hopes that maybe it will be of service to any of you and things that you're going through and how it speaks to you. And maybe something that you take from this can serve as a inspiration in a completely different element. But at the end of the day, when we're thinking about this, you can see Allie, what are the things that are distractions for you that really are almost things that are trying to pull you away from what you are meant to be doing? This past weekend, I got an astrology reading done, which was pretty phenomenal. And if you don't really know what that means, essentially it's just what was happening in the stars and the planets with the energy that it surrounds all of them on the day and the time that you were born, and what does that mean in the grand scheme of things. But when we were doing this astrology reading, she was talking about your true north, the place that you're constantly or actually truly pursuing, the true destination that we all have in life that gets our internal kind of motivators going to head in that area. And the creative outlet allows you to get there, and whatever your creative outlet is, and that creativity looks different for everyone in so many different ways. For me, yes, it is writing. For some, it is painting. For others, it's storytelling. It's imagining, it's creating with your hands, it's decorating, it's painting furniture, it's playing with numbers. I mean, everyone has this creative aspect in their life that they're drawn to, where they get to engage in this element of play. And I think that we just so quickly want to stop ourselves from being able to do that, and we don't realize the ripple effect that it has throughout our entire life, on us as an entire person. We're so obsessed with making sure that we're working out and eating right, yet we're not doing some of the basic things to take care of the balance that we need in the life. The lesson keeps coming up for me about this balance, the true yin and yang for your life, which is different for everybody. But for me, writing is a yin practice. It's more of that reflection, and we just don't have enough of that in our lives. Some of us do, and you can see the difference in those individuals who embrace reflection and have yin in their life, whether that's through prayer, through journaling, through painting, or whatever their craft is, zoning out and making some really fancy spreadsheets. For me, I can really zone out and get my creative juices on with website design, and that's my secret kind of computer nerd mode. Getting in and figuring out, case studies, and, those all involve the creative gene, and doing more of those. I think we severely underestimate how much self-reflection is happening, how much of those neurons are kind of firing to connect who we truly authentically are, and how we feel about that. So obviously this is a weekly reflection that I'm still in the midst of, and it's still very alive for me. And I wanted to share it with you so that I just think that this one paragraph was so powerful for me, and eye-opening, and reiterating to something that I have been actively kind of working on. But I wanted to share it with all of you in hopes to challenge you, what distractions you have. And they list them on here, but, ones that we hear all the time: shopping. I talked about that. TV, binge watching on Netflix, gossip, alcohol, consumption of products containing fat, sugar, salt, or chocolate. A lot of these, pay attention to after you do that. Are you feeling a sense of hollowness or emptiness after you partake in those things? If that's what's happening, you do not enter there to go enjoy a delicious piece of chocolate, which sometimes you can, I shouldn't say can. Sometimes you have to have that really awesome, good chocolate piece, and it brings you pure joy as you are enjoying it. But sometimes we're using it as a distraction, as a form of resistance, because we are questioning our ability and our worth to do what we're meant to do, to pursue our true north. So with that, I hope you have a fantastic Wednesday. Take the day spending some moments for yourself, really figuring out why you love what you do, or how you're going to do what you love. And I will see you all next week. Have a great day.